Welcome to episode 13, lucky episode 13, I hope, of the Iowa Girls Wrestling Stories podcast. Today, we're going to welcome Alanah Warren. In a past life, I knew her as Alanah Vederick. She's a standout coach from Norwalk, and man, she was a great wrestler in her past, and I'm sure she still does hold her own on the mat. How are you doing today?
I'm good. How are you, Troy?
Very good. So you just got back from a pretty big trip. I called you a few weeks ago to see if you might want to do this, and you're like, well, I would, but I have to go on my honeymoon. So how was the honeymoon?
Yes, it was great. We spent 2 weeks over in Italy and we went to Milan, Florence, and Rome.
Oh man, that is crazy. What was the trip like? What did you see? What's really cool that you took away?
The trip was amazing. I think the biggest thing that I took away was just the lifestyle that they live over there, so different from here. Um, it's really laid back. Everybody walks to everything. You just enjoy life and it's a little bit slower than here and it's great. It's really great.
They're not as concerned about time. Is that
No, not at all. Like you just walk around and you see beautiful things everywhere, and it's a very old but amazing country. And the culture is the culture is awesome. I think one of my favorite parts was just like walking down the street and just seeing how they interact with each other and what they do in their daily lives, just because you don't really get to see that here.
now that's really neat to hear that and see. Yeah, I'm sure it was to see that. Yeah,
Oh
we're always too worried about getting where we're going and not so worried about each other and stuff. But you obviously got married.
yes.
Um, so how's marriage going for you?
Great. I mean, it's almost been 6 months, so still fresh, but yeah, it's really great. Trying to figure out how to change the last name on everything. That's a little difficult.
Yeah, that's crazy to do all that. You gotta jump through some big hoops to do that stuff. And then
Yeah.
your son, you said, is 2.5 years old now.
Yes.
Wow. How
I know.
how's Rylan?
He's great. He's two. So we're using her words and we're forming our own opinion.
I can't imagine that he would have his own opinions, knowing you. But so we'll hop in just with that. I actually let's start with coaching. I was going to go a different direction, but coaching with a 2-year-old, how is that? I mean, because that's challenge.
Yeah, no, it's really hard. It's a team effort between my husband and I, especially since we both are wrestlers, so we're both very involved in the program. Um, Luckily now, Rylan has gotten to know my managers a lot better, so it's easier for him to like go and hang out with them and kind of just he's in the wrestling room. That's what his life is going to be. He has two parents that were former wrestlers, so he's getting really used to it. It's funny because the girls would call him like Coach Squish, and yeah, and he'll like point at him to like do something too. So it's good that now that he's older, he's able to interact with everyone.
Yeah, that is going to be a challenge, I think, for female coaches in wrestling. And I think it's going to be kind of a neat thing to introduce something different to wrestling. And I think, in my opinion, that's why I enjoy girls wrestling and women's wrestling more, is because it's a whole new perspective on everything.
Hmm.
And the fact that we're going to have little ones in the wrestling room where that never happened before. Dads are just, I'm going to leave this with either mom or grandma, and I'm going to the practice. I never
Hmm.
really thought about bringing my girls to the wrestling room, but your kids are going to grow up on a mat, so they're going to
Hmm.
really love the sport. That's really cool.
I hope
um
I hope we love
oh
this.
yeah, I guess we don't know for sure, but yeah, my kids never did wrestle. One of them was a manager, and that's as far as we got, but that was a different time.
Yeah.
So I'll go back where I was going to start. I met you, or actually saw you wrestle for the very first time at Conflict at Carver. I believe it was probably one of the very first ones. I
Hmm.
never heard of the tournament before. And I had taken someone who's now still a friend of yours, Keegan, came down to wrestle. And I saw you. I didn't think I talked to you there. But what was the experience like wrestling at Carver Hawkeye Arena?
Um, I mean, that was an insane experience. I think the only girl that did it before me was Rachel Waters, which was the year before. And then that year when Tony reached out to me, I was like, "Whoa, like this is awesome. This is going to be great." And one of my biggest things was that I wanted to put on a show.
Yeah.
And that summer, Rana Heaton won, what was it, Cadet Worlds?
Cadet Worlds. Yeah.
Yep, Cadet Worlds. So we asked Rana to come and wrestle too, and it was a great experience. That's what we both were there to do. We were both there to put on a show and really promote girls wrestling and show that it can be exciting.
Yeah. And I think the next day, so that was Night of Conflict. And I don't
Hmm.
did IA Wrestle put that on at that time, or was that okay? So
Yep.
Tony did put that on, and that was showcase matches, like he's still doing today. But that was the
Hmm.
first time, or not the first time. You said Rachel Waters had the first one, but that was real early and the only girls match involved in that whole thing. And
Yeah.
then you got to wrestle a cadet world champion, which is crazy. And I know you didn't win that match, but I remember it was a very close match. It was a good match, wasn't it?
Yeah, we were pretty scrappy with each other. I
Yeah.
think one of the things that during that match, like it was, I remember we were hand fighting really hard, and like after one of the periods, I went because I felt my hair, and I just pulled out a chunk of my hair into the trash can, just dropped it, and kept on going, And at that time, that's not something that everybody saw ever,
Yeah.
really.
That's
So.
I'm going to tell you that the tournament the next day in Carver Hawkeye was the very first time I'd been to a girls wrestling tournament. And I had worked with Keegan for probably a whole month and a half and figured we'd walk through this tournament because how much could girls know? And her very first match was Rana. And I was like, oh my God, what is this? And then after that, she wrestled Allison Schuster. She
Mhm.
wrestled a couple other girls from the Illinois national team, and I was like, "Oh my God, I am so wrong." But it was awesome.
Yeah,
Yeah, I
it
really,
was.
really got an education that day.
Yeah, no, that's a tough bracket. That was a really tough bracket. So,
But with that education, I got to meet Kurt Schuster, and he
mhm.
invited me down to the time I actually got to meet you was at the camp that Emma Randall did in Lincoln. And
Mhm.
that was probably one of the coolest things I've ever been involved in is that with Emma. She's awesome, and the Schuster family. We won't get into the whole Schuster family because I don't want to have any tears today. Um,
Yeah,
but
love them. They're
that was
great.
the first time I'd ever been around that level of a coach. I mean, probably one of the best coaches. Have you ever been around a better coach than Emma Randall?
No, Emma is amazing. I
Yeah.
think even I can't remember if it was before that or after that, before Folkstyle Nationals, I went and did like a 3 day long, like 4 day long camp with Emma. And I learned so much at that camp, just about everything, not even just like girls wrestling, but like a training cycle. It was very informative and shaped a lot of what I know about wrestling and like how I coach now from there. So yeah, no, she was fantastic.
Yeah, that's one of my favorite people to be around. I've got the opportunity to be around her a couple other times since then. So yeah, it's just amazing where that started. But before that, you'd been wrestling for a while, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
how did you get started wrestling? I know your family's very heavily involved in wrestling, but how did you get started?
Yeah. So I had older cousins that wrestled and they were very competitive. And my mom took my brother to a wrestling camp over the summer just for him to try it. And I went to go watch. And then I looked at my mom and I was like, "Can I wrestle?" And she was like, "Well, I don't know. Can you?" So we asked the coach, Anthony Purcelli, and he welcomed me with open arms. And I just fell in love with the sport. It was since then I just hit the ground running, and it just jumped right in. I
Yeah,
mean, it was very hard because I was one of the only girls, and I definitely had to prove myself, and there was a lot of naysayers out there, but luckily I had really great coaches that supported me.
yeah, the Norwalk coaching staff and family seem to really support you, and we'll get more into that. I want to talk about the naysayers because I'm going to tell you I'm having some issues at Ridgeview. We're
Mhm.
both high school coaches, of maybe some of the people now still saying those things. How did you get past in your mind the people that were saying negative things to you?
It was really hard at first. I remember like my mom telling me at a very young age that this was like bigger than just me. So like whenever I'd step out on the mat, I wasn't just representing myself, but I was representing girls in this sport and trying to pave the way to make this opportunity open for girls. So it was just more of like trying to prove them all wrong. And even if I did lose a match, I wanted to show that like I was tough and I could hang in there with the boys. And I think a lot of people didn't realize like I didn't want to wrestle with the boys, but it's what I had to do.
Yeah,
So
yeah, times are different. And wrestling the boys, if I remember right, you sustained some injuries. Did you?
yeah.
Yeah,
Yep.
shoulders.
Yep. Yep. I've had 3 shoulder surgeries.
Yeah, that's kind of that evil part of wrestling with the boys. I think was almost everybody has shoulder problems, and
Hmm.
it's not that you're not as good a wrestler technical wise. You give up that upper body strength, and man, and then sometimes officials maybe let things go a little longer, I think, because they think you're flexible.
Yeah.
you know
Yeah. Yeah.
and so yeah, I hate to see that. How did you deal with injuries? I trying to remember when or how old you were when you had those. Was that early in your high school career, or was that?
So, my first one was after my freshman year. I wrestled 106 my freshman year, and then I heard it during the season, but then I heard it really bad in the finals at Folkstown Nationals. Um, and I had my first surgery then, but then I continued to wrestle. We got it fixed. It was good. I went to Fargo the next year, All American at Fargo. Um, wrestled and I went up a weight class, and I think what by that time my brother was in high school and we were both the same weight, and I'm like uh, we were not gonna even go there. So I focused on wrestling the girls more so at that point. And then we found out after my junior year that I had bilateral shoulder tears that were pretty significant. So I had to get 2 shoulder surgeries my senior year.
Oh wow, yeah, that's a hard pill to swallow a senior year, with the great career.
Yeah.
um Other places I would see you would actually be in Norwalk, because Norwalk used to host the female elite wrestling tournament, and I think before that, did they host the USGWA?
Yep,
And
we did it at North.
at North, okay.
Mhm.
And your mom was heavily involved in both of those things, wasn't she?
Yeah. So when we first started, we had the Davies invite us to like a girls wrestling tournament. It was in Davenport, Iowa. And Rachel Waters was there too. I think like April Ritz was there, like all of like the real like OG girls. Like
Yeah.
wow. And it was just in this little gym, and concession stands was like out of just a cooler. And my mom was just like, wait a second, like I see what they do for the boys. How can we make this better? Like, what can we do here? So, yeah, with the help of Gino Hildreth and the North Youth Wrestling, they were very supportive of me as well. And we hosted, what was it, 2 years at North High School. And that first year, I think we broke like 100.
Oh
There was like
wow.
100 girls. Yeah.
Yeah.
And this was back in the day where like we were hustling. It was like posters, flyers everywhere. We would give them to like sisters of, boy wrestlers and
Uh-huh.
just to get them to come out and try the sport. Like it was a hustle to try to get girls to come out for wrestling and just provide a space for them to do that. So that was really awesome when we did that, and it was huge. And we hosted it another year, and then we moved to Norwalk, and they were very supportive of us as well. And they were just like, yes, of course, like we will help you do this. So very fortunate that my clubs and my coaches have been able to help grow the sport of wrestling essentially here in Iowa.
Yeah, it's neat that your very first experience with Perselli, because that guy is he. I was scared to death of that man when I first saw him because he's a big, scary guy, but probably one of the
Yeah.
nicest people you will ever run into. And his
Mhm.
daughter's had a great career.
Yeah.
So that's kind of cool. It's so neat to see all these little crisscross and everything comes back around. Um, you said you wrestled at Fargo and was a Fargo All American.
Yes,
Probably
I
was
was.
probably wasn't very many Fargo All Americans from Iowa prior to that. Like yourself, Rachel. I
Yeah.
I think April might have been a Fargo All American, maybe, and Paige Storm,
Mhm.
uh, uh, Jasmine Bailey.
Yeah.
That's
Cassie
the
Herkelman.
Cassie Herc. Okay.
And then of course Megan Black, Ronnie Goodall too.
Oh yeah.
Yep, those
Yeah, for
were those were the girls that were like older than me, so I had like a group of girls that I was able to look up to when I was younger, and that helped a lot, especially when there was a lot of pushback from the wrestling community
yeah,
essentially.
yeah.
So,
I came in a little bit after that. It's been 10 years. It's crazy to say I came after that. It's been 10 years,
oh, it's
but
been 10 years.
yeah, 10 years, 10 years since I saw your little redhead down in Lincoln.
Oh.
But yeah, that's, you know, and the sports changed so much in
Mhm.
that time frame. Um, what are some of the things you've seen, now that you're coaching in high school from when you started like the tournaments and everything, there's more people at a Monday night tournament now, or a Friday night or a Saturday, whatever night you guys are having your tournaments. There's more people there than wrestled in the state when you started. It's insane. So what have you seen?
Um, I mean, obviously I saw the sport go from literally like a handful of us girls here in Iowa and to now where it's I mean, I can't even explain it because you see like full teams and you just see girls everywhere and they're open to coming out and trying this sport and they have that opportunity with no pushback and really getting to see them thrive. And this is amazing. I think I always try to remind my girls about being thankful for this opportunity because there wasn't opportunities like this for girls, and it's very new. So it's been great. I mean, I went to the state tournament last year, and just seeing that on a whole different level compared to what our state tournaments were when I was in high school and younger is that was really big.
Yeah, sometimes those brackets would be three or four, and you're a state
Yeah.
champion of three or four, but I mean that's still at the time that was a big deal. What your
Mhm.
mom did, started to pave the way. What you did as a wrestler paved the way for this for your girls now, for those 20 some, 30 some girls. How many girls do you have in your on your wrestling team now?
I have 12 high schoolers and then I have 18 middle schoolers.
Yeah, see
We all
that
practice
it's
together.
that middle school, it's coming up, and that's what I'm seeing too. Is
Hmm.
I started a youth club this year that goes through middle school, and the level of wrestling, I think some of the middle school girls easily could step on the mat right now in the high school level.
I
And
agree.
then, watching some of the youth wrestlers this last year at like a Twin Rivers tournament, I was like, oh my God, I'm blown away. I think they're better wrestlers than I ever had been. So now
Yeah.
the level of wrestling has really risen,
Oh, yeah,
not
for
taken
sure.
away from any of the people that came before, but boy, when you have high level coaching and camps and clinics for everybody, it really raises the level.
I mean, the sport is constantly evolving. I think that's a really big part about being a coach is that you're always a student of the sport. You're always studying the sport, and it is changing all the time. So it is great that this competition is being brought up. And I think it's our jobs as coaches to continue to stay on top of it and evolve with the wrestlers, evolve with the wrestling that is coming up.
Yeah, I am so excited for the next group of coaches to come in. It's I feel like I'm a placeholder right now. As an old guy, I feel like I'm a placeholder because I really need I'm so excited for you. I love talking to you. Like we get to run into each other 2 times a
Mhm.
year,
Yeah.
at Ogden and then at State and stuff. I love talking to you and hearing everything. And I can't wait for that next group of coaches to come in. It's really going to be exciting. And they're
Mhm.
coming. They're coming. I know they are.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's great that you're able to be here because I do think as young coaches, we need mentoring. And it takes people that have put in the time to be able to mentor us on how to do all of the administrative things and how to deal with different types of challenges that come along the way. So, no, it's great and I'm glad that we do have people like you that are able to help us out. I mean, I have confided into you about some issues that I've dealt with, and you've been able to help me. So, yeah, no, thank you for being here for us.
Well, you're we talked during your first year, and there were some
Mm.
rough patches, and we don't have to deal with what exactly what they were. But how was the second year of coaching? How much better, right?
Much better. Yeah, that first year was hard. And it was hard for all of us. It was my first year being a coach, let alone a head coach for a school program.
Mm-hmm.
And then I had a 4-month-old baby at the time too. So I'm juggling momhood and doing this. And then I have brand new wrestlers that have never, are just trying it because it's an opportunity available for them. So, but yes, I have told people as the years keep on going, the easier that it gets, and the more understanding I have, and the more I understand how I want to run this program, and the impact that I want to leave on these girls.
Yeah, that's a great statement. The impact I want to leave on these girls. That's any good coach is going to say something similar to that. And
Hmm.
what are some things that you talk about not wrestling involved? I mean, everything kind of comes back to wrestling, but there's a lot of things that we talk about, I think, especially as coaches of female athletes, because they need some different things. What are some things in the practice room that you really talk about?
Yeah, I talk a lot about confidence. Um, just with my group of girls, that's one thing that I'm really trying to work on with them is to like be confident in themselves. Um, Another thing is being disciplined. I strongly believe in that and holding yourself accountable and not making excuses. And, I think those are really good life skills. Also, like being able to work through your feelings. Um, a lot there's a lot going on in a high school girl's head right now. And just trying to talk about how they feel and understand how they feel. I'll have girls come to me and say, like, I don't know, I just feel like I need to cry. I'm like, that's okay. You can cry, but let's try to get to the root of this, why you feel this way. And it's being able to understand yourself and have someone there to kind of talk with you. And I feel like when you understand yourself and who you are, you're more confident. So giving the girls those type of tools. My goal is I really just want to make really strong independent women in society. And
That's
I want to give them the tools to do that, and I want them to be mentally healthy and I want them to be physically healthy. So that's what I try to do, and I try to leave a lasting impression on them that I know probably will because a lot of coaches did on me.
Yeah, that is great. That is some fantastic stuff. You also, I did some Facebook stalking because that's what I do before I do these things. You have a staff, and your staff is also female coaches. Is that correct?
I have one female coach,
Okay.
yes. And then my my middle school, he wrestled at Norwalk too. And then I actually have my previous head coach, Brandon Schmitz, he helps out as well. And then my husband, Brian,
Oh,
which
wow.
is I
You
am
got a
very
nice staff. Wow.
yeah.
That's
Yeah, no, wrestling is very big in our family, and I'm very lucky to have a partner that has the same passion as me because I know a lot of times during wrestling season it divides spouses and families, but instead it really brings us together and we spend a lot of time with each other.
That's really neat. Yeah. Having somebody in your corner also that understands your mission is really
Mhm.
important. And it is hard. My wife has gotten used to it over the years, but we're gone a lot. We're,
Mhm.
and we care deeply about the kids. And sometimes they creep in a little bit ahead of our family. So to have someone in the room with you, that's pretty special. That is
Oh yeah.
that is really special.
I'm very fortunate.
So every time I like to throw out some questions just to see, where these will take us. And I've added some things in over the podcast and just to spark maybe some even more conversation. But I'll just, start with some easy ones. What's your favorite color?
My favorite color is going to be green.
Gonna be green. You're not alone in that. I know a
Yeah.
lot of the girls have said green or pink. So
Oh.
yeah. So if you were gonna take a trip, would it be to the mountains or to the ocean?
Um, Ocean.
Yeah, I see. I'm always going to go ocean too. I love the mountains too, but I would rather be warm than cold.
Yeah.
Definitely better warm than cold. What's your favorite genre of music?
Um, I'm really big like alternative rock type of girl. I don't know if my girls like it in the wrestling room, but
That's all right. They can get used to it, right? Because I
yeah.
put on my hair bands all the time and they hate it, but it's okay because it's what I want to hear.
Yeah.
So, what song? So now we're going to get in a little bit more substantial about wrestling here. So, you're getting ready for a match. You got your earbuds on and your headphones on. What is the song? What are you listening to before you go out?
Oh, what did I listen to? Oh my goodness, you're throwing me way back here. Um, I don't know. What do I listen to? Oh, I really liked listening to I'm Just a Girl by No Doubt.
Nice. That
Yeah,
is that's a great song for that.
yeah, that
And
was
then
actually my walkout song for Night of Conflict.
oh, nice. That's great. Yeah. I don't remember that far back because I'm old and I'm about ready to go in the home. So, I can't quite hit that. But um pre-match ritual. I'm sure you had a pre-match ritual. What was it? And then are you teaching your girls the same type of idea of being able to turn that switch on with a ritual?
Yeah, for me, I wrestled so much that I couldn't think about it. It just had to be on the fly. And if I overthought it, then it was too much. So I would always like be joking, having fun. I would smile. Like I do the smile, I do the double high five, and then I go out there and ready to mess some stuff up. Like that's the type of attitude I had to have. So I give it's so funny. Some of my girls like they need to either laugh or they either need to be serious. So we've been kind of like trying to figure that out for some of them, and it's really funny because some of them need to laugh and kind of relax. One thing that we talk about is like the dog in them, and we make them bark.
Oh, nice. I like that. I might steal that from you if that's all right.
Yeah. No, my husband started it. He was just like, they gotta get some dog in them, and he started barking at them. So then some of the girls picked it up.
Yeah, I think not just female coaches, but younger generation of coaches coming in have a little different attitude about how we get ready, preparation for matches,
Mhm.
practices, when I was wrestling, it was you grind the whole time, and we're going to bust you down, and we're going to break you down to build you up. And I think now we're building people up constantly, which I
Hmm.
think is a really good thing. But then I think the preparation, I'm backing off, after Christmas, we're already kind of getting prepared for state. And so I don't want people injured, and we're going to fine tune. What are some of the things that you do differently than maybe your coaches did?
So it's really funny because I'll always write a practice, and then if I'm going in the room and the practice, I always say, how does the room feel? You
Mm-hmm.
know, that's my biggest thing as a coach is I'm really into feel. I won't just stick to the practice plan because it's the practice plan. I'll tell the coaches, I'm like, I had this plan, but this isn't feeling right. Like, let's do something else. Or it's just like, the girls are really sore today. You know what? This is the feedback that they're giving me. You know what? Maybe let's slow it down, work on our technique really well, and let's play a game. Because it's a long season. It's
Yeah.
a really long season on your body, mentally, everything. So I kind of like to break it up. I have some hard days. I have some training cycles that I like to challenge the girls with, more so mentally, because our technique is it comes, it's there. There's always time for it. But definitely mental is what I try to work on when I'm on those slower days. Well, on those more intense days is
Mm-hmm.
mentality. And then slow days, I work on technique. And it's very little technique that I try to tweak and everything like that. It's kind of bad because I'm a perfectionist and I don't like to move on until those
Yep.
things are tweaked, and it's hard sometimes, and they're just like, come on, let's go, coach.
I
But
know.
I'm just like, listen, like this is very important.
Yeah, we talk a lot about, I start a lot of times at the beginning of the season saying things like, I'm going to teach you the magic move and how you win all your matches, and kind of build that up, and then say, what the magic move is, the one that you've done 1,000 times before you step on the mat. So they,
Hmm.
it's not like other sports. The repetition in wrestling is so important, because if you haven't hit it 1,000 times, you're probably not going to hit it in a match.
Hmm.
So it's hard to coach new people because they want to move on,
Yeah.
but they're not ready to move on sometimes.
No,
So
like
you're right. It's the feel of the room definitely matters. There was even one Christmas practice. It would have been 2 years ago. I think that would have been like when Tatum and Izzy were sophomores, and no, that would have been the first year of sanctioning, because it was all girls, and I got so mad. I did just, it was one of those Christmas practices. And I was
yeah.
like, we either go home, or we're just going to go play basketball. And then we went out and played basketball. There was no other team there. And so I had 20 girls with a basketball, and I found out why they are wrestlers, because, oh my
Yeah.
God, they were horrible at basketball. I mean, I'm bad at basketball, but I could have played, I think, with them. So yeah, it is, it's different. My head coach wouldn't have done that. He'd have just drove us right in the ground, and beat us down that whole day. But they had a
Oh yeah.
blast, and they came back the next day, and it was a great practice.
Yeah.
So that's,
Um, yeah, no, it's changing it up. It's doing something fun. It's before Christmas break, we do like pajama practices or like your Christmas jammies.
yep,
You
yep.
can practice in your Christmas jammies, or on Fridays we call it Fun Move Friday. So I kind of let my coaches do that too. I'm like, all right, what fun move are you showing today? So it's fun. It's good. It's nice to shake things up, and I keep on experimenting. As a coach, as a new coach, I try to experiment and tweak things to just see what works for the girls. And not every team is the same team either.
No.
So,
Yeah, you're very, very correct there. Each year, it's like you got to find whatever that magic is. And I've been on team, well, I've been coaching since 99, 2000, and I've been on some teams with phenomenal athletes, and we've had some of the worst years, not
mhm.
like win and loss wise, but just kind of just dreading the year. And then I've been on teams where maybe the athletes weren't as good, but the year was fantastic. I mean, it was so much fun to and
Mhm.
enjoyable and stuff. So, finding that little thing that works with your group. And it's neat to hear you say that just kind of, you're going with the flow and figuring it out because that's what we have to do anymore. And because kids are different, I don't know if
Hmm.
kids are different, but attitudes are different that have
Yeah.
made the kids different,
Hmm. Yep.
kids are kids. But so talking about evolution of coaching, the coins flip for the second period. You're not going to defer this time. You don't get defer as an option. Are you taking top or bottom?
Oh no, I go on my feet.
You go on your feet. That's they
I
say
like
where
to
you go.
I like to score points. I like my girls to be the goers. That's what I try to teach them is that we dominate the match. So we're gonna go on our feet and we're gonna get a takedown.
Okay, yeah. So, when I growing up and I still talk to a lot of coaches that you will take bottom and you will get away. That's the only way you can win a match. And
Hmm.
I'm gonna tell you, if you're coaching girls, you rethink that philosophy maybe a little bit, because
Uh-uh.
that's probably the worst spot to put somebody in.
Yeah.
But hey, I enjoy it when I get those coaches because I get maybe my girls really good on top because a lot of, that's we are heavily work on top. So give
Yeah.
me 2 periods in a row where I get a pin you. That's great. you know,
Mhm. Well, it's just so different. Like
yeah.
being when I wrestled boys. So whenever they choose down, I'd be able to get my boots in, and
Hmm.
my hips were the strongest point in my body.
Yep.
I got to work when I was on top. So, yeah, no, it's funny. It's really funny because I like my girls to
Yeah.
wrestle on their feet.
Now, probably the most controversial in the wrestling world conversation is freestyle or folk style.
Oh,
What is your preference? And then let's talk about that because I think there's a lot of nuance to this.
um, okay, don't hate me, but
No,
my
no.
preference is I like folk style, but that's when I grew up wrestling. I didn't start wrestling freestyle until I was in high school. So I grew up wrestling folk style. I officiated folk style. That's what I know. Like I know folk style. So that's my preference.
Yep. But you wrestled freestyle in college. How was this? So let's a lot of the conversation around this question, and I am also a folk style. I like both of them. I like wrestling, but
Hmm. Yeah.
what was the transition like for freestyle from folk style? Was it a difficult transition, or does it because you had to wrestle freestyle in college and you were all American at Midland,
Hmm.
so obviously you did well. You were Fargo All American. That was freestyle. Obviously, you did well. How was the transition though?
um, I think it was just like a little bit more difficult because match awareness wasn't quite as there for me as it was in folk style. So when I would wrestle freestyle, you just wrestle. I have no idea what the referee's saying. They're saying something to me, but I'm just trying to just wrestle. So definitely I lacked match awareness,
Okay.
which it's hard.
Yeah. Well,
It's hard. It's a hard adjustment.
it's different when you're worried about control versus exposure.
Mm-hmm.
It's a different way of looking at things.
Yeah, that's